Hi, Samantha Pekh, registered psychologist. In this video, I want to go over some basic strategies that you can do or use to help your child move through their grief. If you're like many of the parents that come to see me privately in my office, a lot of times they don't feel prepared for this or they weren't expecting it. There's some occasions where you do have that time to prepare, but even if that's the case, a lot of parents or caregivers are going through their own grief and trying to figure out how they can support their children. At times feels overwhelming. They're just really concerned about doing it right and not making any mistakes along the way. So I'm going to give you about 6 different things to think about and to keep in mind. And don't worry about remembering them all. You can make notes here or you can refer back to this video if you need to. But I just want to give you those 6 basic things to keep in mind so that you know that you're in the right direction or on the right track in helping your children through their grief. Before I get into that, I also want to just highlight that just like adults, every child will have their own little different, unique way of grieving. So you might find that one of your children regresses a bit, becomes more clingy, begins to act as though they were younger than their current age, or they might cry a lot, or they need to talk about the person that died a lot. And another child is seemingly not impacted at all. They don't cry, they don't show their emotions, or they just continue with their life in the routine, or they get really busy, or there may be a mixture of those things happening. I want you to be just really mindful of the fact that your children might have different ways of grieving and that their way is fine. Allow them to grieve, give them choices on how they want to grieve. Like some children might want memorabilia around, another child might not want any of that around at this time. And just let them know, you do what you need to, you grieve the way you need to. But at the same time of giving those choices, I want you to start implementing some of these things so that there's always this openness or awareness that they can start to reach out and talk to you when they need to. So that leads us into the first thing I want to cover, and that's make it safe for them to share. What this means is when your children are talking, simply listen to them, repeat back to them what they're saying. Don't get into advising them or telling them that this is right or wrong. So they might be really angry at the person who died and feeling like they've been left. We don't want you to run the risk of getting into arguing with them. They didn't abandon you. They wouldn't do that. Just say, yeah, right now you feel like they left you. They left you behind and you're angry at them. You're feeling a lot of anger for them. We don't want to have you get into, well, you shouldn't be angry. Don't be angry at them. Don't be, just at this time you're feeling a lot of sad feelings, or you're feeling a lot of anger, or you want to yell at them, so that they hear you listening. The biggest thing you want to share with them or have them get a sense of is that you at least hear and understand them. You might not agree with them because you're going to have your own way of grieving, but you hear what they're saying. The other one is let them know that they're able to answer or ask questions. When they ask the questions, you might not be prepared for some of them. Some of them might surprise you at first. And if you do act surprised, then just say, wow, I had never thought of that question before. Normalize it. Just, I wasn't expecting that question. Let me think about that one. And if you don't know how to answer it, then let them know that. Give me a few seconds. Let me think about that. Or give me a couple days. I want to really think about how I'm going to answer that before I say anything to you, or before I say the first thing that comes to my mind. That leads us into the second thing I want to cover. Always be truthful with your child or children. Don't run the error of like lying to them or trying to soften the truth in ways, because especially in this day and age, it is really high likelihood that they're going to come across information that contradicts what you shared with them. It might be whether it's a newspaper or something online, or they might overhear a conversation. If you're not comfortable sharing the whole truth, simply tell them that. Say, I'm not ready to share the whole story with you yet. I don't want to lie to you. but give me some time and I'll share the pieces I'm ready for, and let them know that. Going back to them asking questions, the other thing to keep in mind with that is ask the question or answer the questions they're actually asking. Don't elaborate any further. So if they're saying, how did Daddy die? Well, he was in a car accident, and that means that his body got hurt enough that it stopped living. It wasn't breathing anymore. There was a lot of pain. Done. If they ask further, well, what type of car accident? Where was he? Was there a lot of injuries? Was there a lot of blood? Did he have to go to the hospital? Then answer those questions. Try to keep your child's age in mind, and not give too many details. Children are really going to ask the questions that they're ready to hear the responses for. They're already thinking about it, so that's your indicator that they're ready for those responses that are appropriate to their ages. The third thing I want you to keep in mind is encourage them to talk by mentioning the name of the person that has died. There's a power to a person's name, as opposed to just saying when dad. Well, if they call him Daddy, that would be one thing. But if when your friend died, say when Stevie died. I know. I was remembering lots about the times that you guys went to the park, or as you're walking. Remember, you used to go biking down that path with your friend Stevie, and you guys used to always have competitions about who would go faster. So use the name of the person who died and share memories that come up for you when you happen to think of them. And try to do this, like, you might do it more often in the initial stages or weeks and months following the death, but try to do it about every month or so at minimal, so that your child is understanding that this continues to be a conversation that's open for discussion. The next thing I want you to consider is start collecting memories of the person who died. Jotting down ones that you remember. Don't worry about making this pretty or really creative at first. Just get it down onto pieces of paper somehow and store it all in one space. If it feels like too much for you to do all the collecting yourself, then ask a few friends or family members to do some of the collecting. It may be a friend that calls the workplace of the person who died and ask for the numbers of a few of the key people who knew him well, just so that they can share one of the memories that stands out for them. The children that I have worked to have really valued these memories, or having the collection of these memories, whether they were in the form of images or photos or brief stories or long stories. They really valued the fact that they could access them and they were ready for them when they were ready. So the idea of collecting these along the way is, you could share them along the way if your child is wanting that. But really the idea is to have them ready, so when your child is wanting to sit down and start to go through some of these things, and that you're prepared for it. One of the biggest fears of kids is that they're going to forget the person that they have lost. So putting this together will and you can let them know that you're doing this along the way. It'll just help to decrease some of that anxiety or fear around the fact that they might forget a lot of memories about the person that they've lost. Okay, the next thing to keep in mind is ensure or encourage that you have some time for really active play. Kids naturally move in and out of grief, so sometimes they might not know how to do that, but you'll notice at times that kids will really grieve and all of a sudden they're out playing like it never happened. And at times adults kind of get weirded out by that or don't understand what that is about, but it's actually a really healthy way of moving in and out. It's not healthy for us to stay in a mood for a long time. We need some breaks from the stresses that are in our life. And adults could actually learn a lot from kids by how they grieve. But as caregivers, we can help facilitate that natural moving in and out of grief by ensuring that we provide activities that allow our children to have really active play. And then I want you to think about how to bring in some containment exercises afterwards. We don't want to leave our grieving children in that high energy. A lot of children, when they're grieving, have a hard time regulating their emotions and staying contained. themselves. So this is why we get the irritability and the misbehavior, the acting out, because they're having a hard time keeping that regulated. So after we give them that active play to release the energy that's being stirred up within and the different feelings and emotions, we want to bring in a containment exercise or activity to help to slow things down again. That could be anything from a coloring exercise to sitting beside each other to snuggling, perhaps watching a short cartoon. It might be sitting on a blanket outside and just pointing at different things, playing I Spy or I See. So there's some touch involved. If your child is comfortable or wanting touch, you definitely want to ask beforehand. So it might be rubbing their back or their hands while you're sitting there, or just really slow type play. So it might be, just playing around with cars, but you just slow down the speed of the play. You don't want to leave them in that high active play. So just to summarize some of the strategies that I covered, think about how you can make it a safe place for your children to share. This means asking them questions about how they're doing, letting them know they can ask questions, answering the questions, even the hard ones. And if you're not knowing how to answer it, letting them know, I have to think about that one before I can reply. The second one is be honest with your responses. You want to be the person they can come to for the truth and for the information. You don't want them to find out elsewhere something different and then question their ability to trust and depend on you, especially while they're grieving and going through something like this. The third thing is talk about the person who died, use their name, share your own memories, and try to, the frequency of that might naturally get less as time goes on, but try to keep it in mind about at least every month or so that you're sharing something. And it might be a longer story. If your child's not really up for talking, you might just make a quick little mention of, oh yeah, there's that school that Tommy used to go to. I remember once we had to pick him up for lunch because his mom was working late. I couldn't pick him up on time. Something just short like that. The next one is try thinking about collecting the different memories, whether it's photos or images. And this doesn't just have to be from you. You can ask different people to submit things or share things with you. If they do it by email or send it to you, just keep it all in one spot. And don't worry about making it a really nice project or anything at this point. Just collect them. In time, you may feel like building that into something or typing it up and making it more nice. Right now, you just want to collect it so it's there and it's ready for when your child wants to look through this stuff. And then next thing is encourage and find opportunities for really active play so that your children can release the energy and emotions that are there, even if it's kind of like an undercurrent, and then bring in some kind of containment exercise to slow things down again so that they're not left in that high energy when they're already having a hard time regulating some of their intense emotions. So as you think about all those different things that you can do to support your child, keep in mind you want to give your child the freedom to grieve in their own way. Allow them choices. One child might want memorabilia everywhere. The other child might not want anything around for a bit. And let them both know that there's no right or wrong way for grieving, that they can go about this their own way. And if they find that they want to do something different in time, then that's fine too. But you're going to follow their lead in how they want to grieve, but also be providing opportunities for them to share. We do want to facilitate their ability to move from what's grieving, we call grieving, which is like that personal, private experience of grieving somebody when they've died, into mourning, which is more that shared public experience of grieving somebody. And so as they move into sharing and talking and developing rituals, whether it's like lighting a candle on special occasions, that helps to move them from that private personal experience of grief into the public shared community sense, where their community is just the immediate family or outside the family with friends and neighbors or even bigger community groups. Will be up to everybody's individual preferences, but we want to see that moving because that helps children to heal from their grief.